Stated, Iran is already charging ships yuan, not dollars, to transit the Strait of Hormuz. At least two vessels have already settled transit fees in Chinese yuan through a Chinese maritime intermediary. The petro-yuan, oil priced in dollars but settled in Chinese yuan, has been operating at small scale through the Shanghai International Energy Exchange since 2018. Saudi Arabia built a $7 billion currency swap with China and joined the mBridge digital currency platform, which allows cross-border settlement in yuan bypassing SWIFT and the dollar system entirely. The infrastructure for yuan-denominated oil settlement already exists. The UAE requesting dollar swap lines is not a country choosing between dollars and yuan for ideological reasons. It is a country telling Washington that if the dollar system cannot provide liquidity when the system is under wartime stress, the alternative infrastructure is already built and operational. Macroeconomic analyst Luke.
So you see, man, these nations, although Babylon has weaponized the dollar, all right, you can only do that for so long until eventually these nations, which is this is exactly what they've done. Eventually, it was going to get to a point to where they were going to find their way around these sanctions and pretty much work around the system. It's pretty much what he just said.
Groman, with over 25 years of experience in thematic macro research, summarized the UAE's position in terms that the financial community immediately understood. Moving oil to yuan settlement saves finite US dollars to repay existing dollar-denominated debt, while abandoning the dollar for new prospective trade flows. That is not a geopolitical statement. That is a balance sheet optimization under emergency conditions. And it is the most rational economic calculation any CFO would make when their dollar liquidity is under threat and an alternative settlement system is available. Now, what America's response to this request means for the petrodollar system, for U.S. Treasury demand for oil prices, and for every American's financial life in 2026 gets broken down completely. The response America gives to the UAE swap line request, and equally the response it gives to the implicit yuan warning embedded in that request, will define the trajectory of dollar dominance in global oil markets for the next decade.
Yeah, because depending on how it goes, man, and how I look at it, either way, it's not good for America again. All right, because if they go through with this, of course, it just means more dollar printing out of thin air, which is going to cause more hyperinflation. All right, just grab this back in Revelation. Back in Revelation 6, with all this prophecy coming out, man, hey, we see the ingredients coming together. We see the ingredients coming together for these things to play out. And that's why I was making a point earlier. These nations, they see this, they're watching this, and due to this wartime crisis, wartime conflict, everyone's going to come with their hand out, right? But all in all, man, hey, there's more money printing. I like the scripture say, man, because no matter how much money you print, as the scripture say, Babylon's wound is incurable, roughly paraphrasing, there is no wound for her heal, or there's no balm for her wound. Revelation 6. Bear with me. There's another precept of mine. I'm trying to look for it. Yep, real quick. Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19:35. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephod, and a just hin shall ye have. I am the Lord your power, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. And you see, as the scriptures say, I'm gonna grab it real quick. Bear with me. So in Proverbs, I was wording it wrong. Proverbs 20 and 23. Diverse weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false balance is not good. And you see, again, man, you built this whole system off of debt. Esau has built the whole system off of debt. All right. And used it against the people. Right. Like I said, you can only do that for so long. Weaponize the dollar. It was only a matter of time before these nations figure out a way around the dollar, right? Because again, this is a part of these, I guess you could say, threats. Like I said, they're pretty much saying, coming to the table, pretty much saying, hey man, if you don't want to give us more dollars, man, then hey, we're gonna have to sell all our assets, right? Which is gonna cause hyperinflation. All right, and go over there and start doing these deals with China. So that's why I go into Revelation 6. Revelation 6. 6. Revelation 6 and 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So, when you go into it, man, this pretty much goes into hyperinflation. This is hyperinflation, to put it in a modern term, all right? And this is pretty much what we are on the cusp of. All right, the tipping point, hyperinflation, when you go into it, all right? Because, this is, and that's why I said, man, this is pretty much a lose-lose for Babylon. More dollar printing, right? And not only that, because I believe because with this whole dollar swap, what it goes into is pretty much, well, in this case, Babylon and the UAE, I believe their currency is the dirham, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm not saying that wrong. So pretty much both these countries swap currencies, all right? And it's a high risk for Babylon, because let's say again, being that both these countries, they exchange their currencies, so Babylon would be holding these holding, the dirham, all right. It would be holding their currency, right? And as this conflict continues to go on, pretty much Babylon will be losing out. Because let's say these oil infrastructures over there are hit, right? It would devalue, it will continue to crash and devalue the dirham, which is their currency over there. And here it is, Babylon is holding all this this currency, foreign currency, that more than likely no one's going to buy. Well, again, put it like this: if let's say, I'm just trying to explain it the best way that I can. If let's say I give you $50 million in return, you give me your business, right? So let's say something happens to that business. Well, I just lost my $50 million, just because again, with those oil, those oil infrastructures, that's their obviously their bread and butter over there. So, hopefully that makes sense. But, when you get into it, you just look up the term, just look up on what's that, Chat GPT, right? Or the AI mode. Look up what does, matter of fact, I'll do it. Real quick. Because this is a high risk, in particular for Babylon. This is a risky move, needless to say. So just looking up, what does dollar swapping with the UAE mean for America? And let's see what it says. What does a dollar swapping with the UAE mean for America? It says the dollar swap between the United States and the UAE is a financial agreement in which the Federal Reserve or U.S. Treasury will provide a supply of U.S. dollars to the UAE central bank in exchange for an equivalent amount of UAE dirhams to be exchanged back at a later date. Importantly, this is not a credit line or bailout. It is temporary. It is a temporary liquidity mechanism. So let's say something happens to where the UAE can't pay, they can't exchange those dollars back. There's several ways that this can play out. That's why I can keep stressing, man. This is highly risky for Babylon. All right, and the way I look at it, it's a lose-lose. So it says provision of dollars. The U.S. supplies dollars to the UAE central bank. Temporary exchange. The UAE provides the AED to the U.S. in the same amount. Repurchase at a predetermined time. The UAE repays dollars and receives back its AED. And again, what if something happens to where they can't? Now here it is, Babylon will be sitting over here with all this useless dirham. all this useless foreign currency, or extremely devalued foreign currency. It says the purpose ensures short-term access to U.S. liquidity for international trade, maintaining currency stability, and supporting global payment obligations. Yeah, because again, they pretty much foresee that this war is going to continue to be prolonged. All right, so they want to pretty much get ahead of the curve. It says financial stability, providing a swap line reassures a key Middle Eastern ally that the USD liquidity is available in case of regional turmoil, which helps prevent financial disruptions internationally. Political considerations. Domestically, offering a swap might be viewed skeptically as supporting a wealthy foreign government, potentially affecting public opinion during crises like higher domestic prices. Yeah, because, hey, again, they got that oil over there, and it's not like they're begging. It's not, because some people will argue that, over there, it's an oil producing nation. Why would they need US dollars? Well, again, because certain eyebrows are being raised about this. It says geopolitical influence, maintaining a swap line strengthens U.S. UAE economic and strategic ties, deterring the UAE from deepening alignment with alternative powers like China, which again, that's too late because, again, the UAE, I don't know the guy's name, the head of the UAE or whatever, they already met with China. All right, strengthened ties already. All right, this is why they're coming to the table to Babylon, or coming to Washington or whatever. And they're like, hey, man, listen, at this point, we have other options. So, if you would like to, give us some dollars, dollar swap or not, we have other options. So it says the dollar dominance. Swap lines reinforce the USD's supremacy in global oil and trade markets. Refusal or delay could risk signaling being vulnerable, potentially encouraging the petroleum transaction. So yeah, because again, man, America's dominance, man, is weak. All right, it's only getting weaker. Like I said, America's only on a downward spiral, man. It says a swap line is a liquidity tool, not a bailout. The UAE is not in immediate fiscal distress. The move is both financial and geopolitical, supporting USD flows while subtly reinforcing U.S. influence in the Gulf. For the U.S., it is strategically beneficial, but carries a political and economic balancing act at home. Yeah, because more dollar printing. All right. Going to come out the taxes more. It says in conclusion, a dollar swap with the UAE primarily strengthens U.S. influence, safeguards the UAE's dollar peg. Yeah, because this is pretty much like an insurance policy. It's what you would call a what's the term? A financial backstop. If you look that up, a financial backstop. It says it ensures liquidity during regional instability while financially routine among central banks, and swap carries geopolitical signaling implications, reaffirming alliances and countering potential shifts toward alternative currencies like the Chinese yuan. So, like I said, I would encourage you to do more on it, or research on it, because this is crucial. This is crucial. Depending on how this plays out, depending on what decision is made, again, man, I believe regardless, it's going to be a lose-lose for Babylon, regardless. So, man, this is beautiful. But I'm gonna continue to play this out.
This is not hyperbole. The 1974 petrodollar agreement that Henry Kissinger constructed with Saudi Arabia was never a formal treaty. It was never written into law. It was an arrangement held together by mutual understanding that America would guarantee Gulf security and stable global trade in exchange for oil priced in dollars and surpluses recycled into U.S. treasuries. That arrangement has now been publicly put on notice by one of its key participants, and the financial consequences of that notice reaching every dollar-denominated market on Earth simultaneously are already being priced in. Start with the Treasury market consequence because it is the most direct connection to American borrowing costs and American household finances. The petrodollar loop works like this. Gulf states export oil. Oil consumers pay dollars. Gulf states accumulate dollar surpluses. Those surpluses get recycled into U.S. Treasury bonds, the world's deepest and most liquid dollar-denominated asset. That consistent recycling of oil export revenue into U.S. debt has for 50 years provided a structural floor under U.S. Treasury demand. It has kept U.S. Treasury yields lower than they would be in a purely market-driven system. And lower Treasury yields mean lower mortgage rates, lower corporate borrowing costs, and a lower annual interest bill on America's $39 trillion in federal debt. Every percentage of that recycling flow that redirects into WAN assets, gold, or other non-dollar instruments removes a structural buyer from the Treasury market. The 30-year Treasury has already approached 4.93% in 2026, every basis point higher from reduced Gulf recycling compounds directly into the cost of every dollar the American government and every American household borrows. The Strait of Hormuz dimension adds a second layer of pressure that compounds the Treasury problem, rather than operating separately from it. Iran is currently granting selective access to the Strait based on diplomatic and currency considerations. China, India, Turkey, and countries that have maintained relationships with Tehran are being allowed through, some paying yuan-denominated transit fees. U.S. and allied vessels are effectively blocked. That bifurcation of the oil market, dollar-tracked ships rerouted at higher cost and time, yuan-tracked ships moving through Hormuz efficiently, is not a temporary disruption. It is a structural demonstration of what a partial petroleum system looks like in real operational terms. Every day the Hormuz bifurcation continues. More shipping companies, more trading houses, and more energy consumers are building UN settlement infrastructure into their operations. Infrastructure built under wartime necessity does not disappear when the war ends. Saudi Arabia's position in all of this deserves specific attention because Saudi Arabia is the core of the petrodollar architecture in a way the UAE is not. Saudi Arabia effectively ended its exclusive commitment to dollar pricing in June 2024 when it allowed its petrodollar agreement with the United States to lapse without renewal. It has since built a $7 billion currency swap with China. It joined Enbridge, a cross-border central bank digital currency platform developed in collaboration with the central banks of China, Thailand, the UAE, and Hong Kong, which enables oil settlement entirely outside the SWIFT dollar system. China is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner and its most important crude oil customer. The economic gravity between Riyadh and Beijing has been pulling at the petrodollar arrangement for years. The Iran war did not create this tension. It exposed it. And the UAE's April 19th swap line request is the first time a Gulf state has publicly stated the conditional nature of dollar loyalty in wartime terms. The Federal Reserve's institutional situation in this moment adds its own layer of complexity that investors need to understand. Powell's term as Fed chair expires May 15th. The question of whether a post-Powell Fed, appointed by an administration that has already been using the Department of Justice as a political weapon against monetary policy, will extend the same willingness to provide emergency dollar liquidity to foreign central banks that characterized the Powell era is genuinely open. Robert N. McCauley at Boston University's Global Development Policy Center raised exactly this question in a 2025 post, asking what happens if future Fed leadership declines to extend credit through central bank swaps. His suggestion was that 14 major central banks with substantial dollar holdings should agree to lend to each other rather than relying on the Federal Reserve. The UAE's April 19th request arrives in a moment when the Fed's own institutional reliability as a global lender of last resort is being actively questioned, both by foreign central banks and by domestic political pressure. Here is the number that should stop every American investor. The dollar's share of global foreign exchange reserves has fallen from 71% in 1999 to approximately 57% today, a 25-year low according to IMF data. The dollar's share of global oil trade invoicing, while still dominant, is being incrementally eroded by UN settlement infrastructure that has been built quietly and is now being stress-tested in real-time wartime conditions. Deutsche Bank economists have warned that the Iran conflict could be remembered as the key catalyst for erosion of petrodollar dominance in the beginnings of the Troy Win. That is not a fringe view. That is Deutsche Bank's formal research conclusion published in a client note. The petrodollar did not die on April 19, 2026, but it received its most serious conditional notice in half a century on that day. For every American investor watching this, the portfolio implications are specific and actionable right now. Oil above $100 per barrel, which the Iran-Hormuz disruption has delivered, is inflationary for every American household that buys fuel, pays for food shipping, or consumes any product that moves through a supply chain. The Fed cannot fight that inflation by cutting rates. Gulf sovereign wealth funds reducing treasury recycling puts upward pressure on U.S. yields and therefore on mortgage rates and corporate borrowing costs. Gold, which has surged over 60% in the past year, benefits from every incremental loss of dollar. Reserve status because it is the asset that carries no counterparty risk and no currency jurisdiction exposure. Energy assets with direct commodity exposure benefit from the structural elevation of oil prices in a world where the strait that carries 20% of global oil supply is under contested control. The 50-year petrodollar deal was never written down. It was a relationship held together by mutual benefit and American reliability. The UAE just told Washington in plain language that the reliability side of that equation is under examination. America's answer? Give the swap line and demonstrate that the dollar system provides liquidity under wartime stress, or deny it, and watch a founding Gulf partner begin the formal transition to UN settlement, is the most consequential financial decision of 2026. Subscribe right now. This channel covers...
Yeah, so this is going to be crucial to see how this plays out. It's going to be crucial. So Lord willing, I'm going to keep my eye on this. But of course, they're not going to talk about this on the mainstream media. Of course not. Because Trump, he's got to play this part, prop America up as still as if they're the big bad wolf when they're not. All right. America's dominance is waning. It's been waning. All right. It's been declining. You know, all these, Trump's boasting about all these ceasefire deals or these ceasefire treaties. And then Persians, they're like, man, listen, we never agreed to no ceasefire. I mean, them Persians, they were like, man, they were pretty much saying that, hey, we ain't agreed to no ceasefires. They didn't, we we didn't agree to no ceasefire. We ain't talking about no ceasefire deal. But hey, again, Trump, he's got to play a part. He's got to play this part. But it's not looking good. So, to me, this is major. In my humble opinion, this is major news. Isaiah 14, verse 10. All they that speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? So I always say, man, hypothetically speaking, if we were to be here another 100 years, 200 years, which we're not for sure, but hypothetically speaking, if we were, man, hey, this world will transition. All right. China will be the new America. Russia will be the new NATO. And America will just be on the back burner somewhere. So, again, hypothetically speaking, if we were to transition, if we were to be here another 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, 250 years, whatever the case may be, if we were to be here another long, long time, generations from now, hey, this world will be transitioned and America would phase out. This world is transitioning as we speak, and America is more and more being phased out. Now, ultimately, it's going to be Yahweh Shai that comes to deliver the ultimate Mike Tyson left hook blow, But this world is transitioning, and hey, America is being excluded out of these talks. America is pretty much, man, being phased out of the picture, man. So it's a beautiful thing to see. I'm going to jump up to verse 4. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath, and this happens to every empire from ancient Egypt up until now, modern, spiritual Egypt, man. All right. One empire has ruled for a time being. All right. Until it reached that point. Until it reached that what's the word? It reached that boundary that it can't pass. All right. So as the saying goes, out with the old, in with the new. Every empire has been like that. And as we're in this transition, Esau is the end, Jacob is the beginning. But the thing about it is, the kingdom of Israel is going to be forever. It's going to be permanently established, never taken out. It says, because man, them Moabites, man, them Chinese, man, they think they're next to rule. But hey, the Lord has a message for them when you're reading Jeremiah. The Lord got a message for them too, as well as Second Esdras. Verse 5, the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and none hindereth. So you see, man, hey, everyone's getting ready to gang up on this bully, man. All right. Everyone's ganging up on this bully. All right. Everyone's doing backdoor deals with America's enemies, America's allies, doing backdoor deals with America's enemies, man. Revelation 17. Hey, man, like I said, we're seeing the ingredients of prophecy playing out, man. So, like Apostle Aramlab said, hey, don't be surprised, man, because we don't feel the effects of this right away, within 24 hours or whatever. But like the apostle said, hey, don't be surprised, man. Within a few weeks, things really pick up. Don't be surprised. Because hey, one day we're gonna wake up. One day we're gonna wake up, man, and this shit's gonna be crazy. You think $4 for some gas is bad now? Just wait. The prices per barrel, hey, and the Persians, they threatened that too. Those Persians, they threatened $150, $200 a barrel. So don't be surprised, man. One day, hey, $10 of gas, $20 of gas. I won't be surprised. $100 for a loaf of bread, as I read in that Revelation 6, right? Go back to that real quick in Revelation 6, because this is how you got to picture it. In Revelation 6:6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. So just imagine that. All right, you got to spend a whole paycheck on a damn loaf of bread, man. Just imagine that. And it's not too far-fetched, because shit, as soon as Jake gets their paycheck, that shit gone. As soon as Jake gets their paycheck now, $20, man, that ain't shit. That don't get you shit compared to $20 20 years ago. It's just different, and things are just progressively getting worse, increasingly getting worse. So don't be surprised, one day, hey, shit, $100 for a loaf of bread, a whole paycheck, man, for some food, for some groceries, for a few things, for a few items. Those days are coming, hyperinflation. Because like the scriptures say, the golden cup, right? America is referred to as that golden cup. Well, hey, like I read, man, hey, America's time is through. Her time is done, right? And like I read, how have the golden city ceased, right? So this place is through, all right? But again, this is they're not going to show this on the mainstream media, and I wouldn't either. I don't blame you. I wouldn't either. Yeah, this is what's going on, man. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. All right, this is going to be crucial. Whatever decision is made via this, So it's just a waiting game at this point, man. But either way, hey, Lord willing, we just, as brothers say, continue to we got our spiritual popcorn ready. Hey, enjoy the ride, because it's about to get crazy. So Lord willing, this was edifying. All praises to Yahweh Bashar Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully, like.